for it. I'm ready for it.
In 1968, Peanuts introduced his first African American character by the name of Franklin. Several blacks or African Americans have been introduced as the black person in plenty of instances to prove that no racism is involved. This is no restriction on Michael Cohen's testimony. He maintains the position that Donald Trump is racist, that he uses the N-word, and Michael Meadows introduced Lynette Payton, an African American woman that works for the Trump administration, to almost kind of put his accusations to rest. So, this was disturbing for several reasons. What's understood doesn't need to be explained. If you have constant and frequent interactions with black people, if you're not oppressive, if you're not discriminatory, why pull this one black person to say, hey, I like black people. Black people are cool. We don't need that. We need to see it through your acts of charity. We need to see it through your everyday walk in life. We need to see that you are the kind of person in general that does not maintain this racial stance. And he further goes on to point out his friendship with Elijah Cummings, who's the chairman that presided over the Michael Cohen testimony. And then he goes on to further talk about having black nieces and nephews that no one knew about. I think the whole entire display of using Lynette Payton was very disheartening and disgusting because, you know, this was very reminiscent to the times that slaves were put on display and used as props. And, you know, it's unkosher. I think that if you are the kind of person, or should be the kind of person, that is colorblind and sees everyone on the same playing field, then pulling one person to prove a point is completely unnecessary. To prove the fact that you have a blended or mixed family and that you have black family members or mixed family members, it should be neither here nor there, to the point that you treat people equally and fairly and that you don't have these reservations. I think it's just completely unnecessary. I think it was rude. I think it was disrespectful. We're not pulling white people and going, hey, we have a bunch of white friends. We're not racist. So ultimately, I think the whole entire display was very rude. I feel for Lynette Payton. She wasn't even asked to speak. She wasn't asked any questions. She wasn't asked about her role with the Trump administration. She wasn't asked, you know, if she felt comfortable. Had she ever experienced any covert racism? I mean, she was just, like, you know, just asked to be there. She was just put on display. It was just, hey, here's this black woman that we hired, and there's no way that we can be racist because we hired a black woman. But that doesn't have any merit on the fact simply because as slaves we weren't asked if we liked our situations, you know, if we were okay with the experiences and things like that. It just simply spoke to the situation. Hey, I feel like this person, this demographic can do this job. I'm going to call them in to do this job, whether it's cleaning house, whether it's breastfeeding the kids, whether it's being out in the fields, whether it's raising the babies, whether it's making the babies, whatever the case is. We were used for specific purposes, and that didn't mean that we were treated fairly or equally. So to use this woman's employment as a means to say that her and everyone else beyond her are treated fairly and equally is not right. It's actually a slap in the face, because you might just like Lynette. She might just be well behaved in your eyes. She just might not have much to say. She might be very soft spoken. She might be very whitewashed. We don't know that. But to, like I said, use just her in this instant, and especially more so because she wasn't speaking, or maybe I don't know if she was allowed to speak or whatever. It's very, very, very insulting. and then, to use one of our own as a reason to say that things aren't happening or going on in this climate that we know for sure are going on. I couldn't believe it. I was very emotional sitting in my cabin watching CNN and seeing this display happen, seeing it go on, and seeing a white male insist that this is not the case when I know it to be true, because the glass ceiling does exist. Lots of minority women, especially if they have kids, do not make it to lots of managerial and supervisory positions because of their color. So, I think that a good solution to this situation, because I never would maintain a position for racism to be returned with racism, I think this would be a good situation for us to continuously call out overt racism, covert racism in the lunchroom. Any instances where we see that we're being discriminated against, any time that racism is at play, we need to call it out. We need to make sure that we are letting those people know that we don't stand for it. And we definitely don't need to be used as props. I don't know if she had some sort of incentive in this. It might have been a situation where they said, hey, Lynette, can you come in and, just stand in solidarity with us while I make a point? She might have said sure and had no idea that that's what she was getting herself into. She might have had some sort of incentive for being there. I don't know the logistics behind her actually being there, but she definitely wasn't asked to speak. So ultimately, if we are not expected to sit at a table equally, if we're expected to be at the table and eat scraps, if we're expected to be in a situation where we're put on display but we're not honestly and truly valued, like I tell people, you deserve a seat at the table just as much as the next person. And if you're not able to sit at a table with people and be viewed equally, if that table is not round and you cannot sit there fairly and justly, create your own table. The display of something like racism covered is unacceptable. So create your own table. Don't deal with that. I wouldn't be in affiliation with anyone that decides that that is okay. I wouldn't pull one of my white friends for this channel and say, hey, can you come and sit down because, my friends need to know that I'm not racist. No, I wouldn't.